Hello, storytellers, and welcome back to Once Upon a Time, the podcast for all your storytelling needs. If you are new to this channel, then welcome. My name is Sarah McGilvray, aka Starshine Wonder in various places on the internet, and with me again is my lovely co-host
Zach Campbell of, this Once Upon a Time podcast and of the YouTube channel, the founder of Zach Does Things. A pleasure to have you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. And today's topic of interest is our favourite stories. Basically, our favourite genres of the kind of stories that we like to read as we were growing up, that we like to read now. And obviously, we're going to explain a little bit why and how we came to choose these types of genres, I assume. I'm just the co-host. I don't know anything about what we're doing. I'm just kind of winging it, as I usually do with things. But,
Okay,
Sarah, would you like to add
Karen.
any more?
Well, the title of this episode is "These Are a Few of My Favorite Things." Stories have, which hopefully will be a topic for another day. Stories have an enduring power, and they have an impact on the way that we think, which is awesome, and it's fantastic, and it's wonderful. And
Sure is.
a story can change your mind about things. It can make you go, or it can make you laugh. It can make you cry, and as such, one of the obvious things that you can do is talk about your favorite types of stories, which is always awesome.
It certainly is. It certainly is. I can't wait to actually. Just been looking forward to this for quite a while. So ever since we announced it, really, I've been looking forward to doing this.
It's going to be really fun.
It's going to be really fun.
Also, for those of you who are listening on the day that it's uploaded, a belated Merry Christmas, because this is because we're in theory, I shouldn't say this, but we're currently recording this about a week and a bit, just over 10 days before. Hang on.
We're recording this.
Nearly 2 weeks before Christmas.
Yeah, we're recording this on the 13th of December, and it is going to be up the day of release on the 28th of December. So,
yes,
a belated happy holidays to whoever is listening.
I hope you all got amazing presents.
Absolutely, I hope you all had a wonderful time, spending it with family, loved ones. Got what you deserved off Santa.
Yep.
And I hope you have a wonderful time and a safe journey into 2019.
Because 2019 is going to be a really, really good year, I think. But
So
that's
too.
Just personally.
There's quite a few things happening in 2019. Some related to movies and things that I want to see, and some related to personal things as well. So, but that'll all be probably on my channel at some point.
So let's get into this.
Absolutely. Ladies first.
Let's think. Do you want to go first, or shall I go first?
Ladies first.
Oh, thank you. Who said? Hang on. Who said I was a lady? I'm joking. Oh, yes. Well, books that have made. The way I'm doing this is I'm doing books that have made an impact on me.
That's just a fancy way of saying she hasn't prepared.
Hey, come on! I have read a lot of books, both in my childhood and my adulthood. As a lot of people know, I love to tell stories. I love to make up stories and tell poems and tell and come up with really cool ideas like dragons and what I like to call reality with a twist, which I think is a really cool way of doing stuff.
Absolutely.
And as such, and I know this is cheating a little bit because it's not technically a book, but I never said it just had to be books. Is pretty much the entirety of the Warehouse 13 series. Now, for those of you who don't know what Warehouse 13 is, it is such a good show.
You haven't lived. It is such a good show. It really, really is. I enjoyed watching that from beginning to end. I really, really did. That was so many great historical artifacts, and just the way that
it's so awesome.
It took the reality of the history, but also, like you say, it's a real. I assume it's a reality with a twist kind of thing, because
it is.
Oh my gosh! Just
so
how much fun.
To give you an idea of the level of dedication to which I watched the show, when I found out that there was an entire DVD box set of it on Amazon, I bought it. And I currently have the entire DVD box set, complete with one of commentaries, both the web shows.
Nice.
Because there were actually web they did a couple of web shows on the Sci-Fi YouTube channel, which I didn't know about at the time.
Yeah, I've seen a few. I've seen a few seasons of that. I know that Suits used to have a web series, like little snippets and things, and they were. I mean, I don't even think it's canon. I think it's just extra. I think it must be just like outtakes of like the episodes, but they were still pretty good. I really enjoyed watching them.
Yeah, I loved this series. To give people a brief overview of the series, Micah Bering and Pete Latimer are Secret Service agents. This is basically kind of telling you the pilot, but not telling you the pilot at the same time. Yeah. During a quote-unquote routine visit by the president to open a new wing, something gets quote-unquote stolen, and then suddenly they're sent to they're spoken to by someone called Mrs. Fredericks, who is mysterious and wonderful, and
is just pure awesome.
She's just fantastic.
She is.
And she's played by I can't remember her name.
But I can't remember her name, but she's a fantastic actress.
She's such a fantastic actress. And it's like, she has such a commanding presence. It's awesome.
It really is.
And she sends both Pete and Micah to this Warehouse 13, which looks like a warehouse in the middle of South Dakota.
Yeah.
Because apparently South Dakota stores all of the world's weird junk.
Why not? I mean, they must have the space.
And they get introduced to Artie, and he introduces Warehouse 13, also known as America's Attic.
Yeah.
Basically, they store what they call artifacts. They go and they excuse me. They go and they find different artifacts, quote unquote artifacts. Things like there's a candle that burns at both ends, and this is like one of the last episodes in the series. Yeah. There's a candle that literally burns at both ends, and it creates doppelganger. It creates effectively two versions of you. The one that parties hard and the one that studies hard. And it's awesome. And then in the same episode, there's a brooch that becomes an artifact because it's the last series in a telenovela, which is just hilarious. Yeah. It's so good. It's just that episode especially is hilarious because
for sure,
on the one hand you've got Peter and Artie and Micah stuck in a telenovela with Pete's ex-girlfriend who's pregnant, and And it's just hilarious. It's like so much like a telenovela. It's just like there's so many convoluted plot twists.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's oh man, it's such a good TV series. It really
It
was.
is.
Such a
It
shame that
really
they
was.
ended it.
A little bit of a shame that it kind of had to end,
I
but
know.
it's so
It
hilarious.
was.
There's also the fact that it doesn't just tackle really hilarious episodes. There's also they also deal with some really kind of serious stuff. They talk about like alcoholism. They talk about excuse me. They talk about alcoholism. They talk about they deal with cancer. They talk about one of the other guys, Artie.
Yeah.
It turns out that he was actually in the war, and or rather he was selling artifacts to the Soviet Union,
Yeah.
but so that he could have protection for his family.
Yeah.
And he whew,
Some good stuff.
and
Some
they deal
serious
with
things to deal with.
yeah, it's quite
But they did it in such a good way. I mean, oh,
yeah.
it was just so well told.
They did it's an amazing series, and I would seriously recommend it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like such a good series.
Absolutely.
It's worth going to watch purely for the laugh value, but I should warn you, there is something of a trigger warning on it.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to show my fiance, then boy, like at the time he was my boyfriend,
Yeah.
now my fiance,
Yeah.
and he actually couldn't even watch the first part because he suffers from PTSD. So if you are easily triggered, don't watch it.
Yeah, for sure.
Or
yeah.
There are certain episodes that you might be able to watch.
Yeah.
But be careful, basically.
Yeah. Just take caution for yourself. If you feel you can't deal with it within like the first couple of minutes, then don't force yourself to do it. Obviously, none of us are doctors, but we just want you all to be safe. And if you do choose to decide to watch it, just make sure that you are safe in doing so.
Yep. Okay, your turn, Zach.
Right. Okay. So for my first one, I have fantasy. So within fantasy, I've included like different realities and different ways of like interpreting fairy tales and things like that. Brothers Grimm, Disney being one, the Wizarding World, just things where other things are not really possible, or are telling the stories of a way that isn't really realistic. So, like the story, let's say, of Rapunzel with the extremely long hair, who lives in a tower all her life. That kind of stuff, the fantasistical types of stories, I quite enjoy reading, and stuff like Harry Potter, the Wizarding World, magic. Last episode I mentioned Terry Pratchett and the Discworld. That's another one that I class as a fantasy type of book. There are just so many that can be included in this. But overall, I think that this has to be my favorite genre that I can actually like sit down and read a book of it non-stop, or an audiobook, just listen to a book of it non-stop over and over again. In particular, ones that I've read previously and really enjoyed, but also kind of like new ones that are related to it. I've recently started to pick up Terry Pratchett again, so I'm reading a couple of those at the moment. and I have to say, now that I'm getting older, it makes a lot more sense from when I read it as a child. And to be quite honest, I really am enjoying it a lot more than I did as a child, um, because the message is coming across clearer, if that makes sense.
I think it
Um,
makes sense.
yeah. So the messages are coming across clearer. Like I'm picking up on some other things that I wouldn't have picked up on as a child, like the kind of jokes or whatever. Because Terry Pratchett comes across as more like, I would say not adult humor, but kind of like teenage humor, I suppose, in a sense. Um, so as a child, being like 8 or 9, I wouldn't have really picked up on that. But now, like I'm reading them back over, the ones I read as a child, I'm picking up on it, and that's, I'm picking up on, I'm getting a different vibe from the story now, which is always good, because I feel when you read a story again after a couple of years, you're gonna experience it in a different way,
Mm.
which is always good, because it's a fresh take and a new experience of reading the same book that you've loved and can begin to love again, because you're getting a different message from it.
Yeah. Any recommendations that you?
Um, to be honest, the ones that I read the majority of is the Harry Potter series, so I'd
Yep.
highly recommend that. Terry Pratchett, the Discworld, I can't, just the whole series of that. I can't remember the one that I'm reading at the moment. I've not read it in a couple of days, so it's not in my mind at the moment. But
Fair enough.
also Brothers Grimm as well. I highly recommend that, just for like the fairy tales with a bit of a dark twist, I suppose. Which are quite good to read it for the more like.
Fairy tales. Sorry, go.
I can't think of the words, for the more like adult kind of like audience, I suppose.
Like the dark origins of
Yes, yeah,
fairy
yeah, yeah,
tale.
yeah,
Um, I'll admit, I kind of like the original.
yeah.
Um, one of the topics we are going to cover is have cartoons become, especially kids' cartoons, become too sanitary, for want of a better word. Should we be teaching them about like the original messed up sorry, the original origins? You know where I was going to go with that.
I did, yeah, I did, yeah. Unfortunately,
Yes. I am subscribed to someone called John Solo. He has a series called Messed Up Origins, where he talks about like the different. He talks a lot about Disney and about the original fairy tales. I do actually want him as a I do want to invite him on as a guest on the show at some point, because that would be really awesome.
That'd be cool, yeah.
But it's the history of fairy tales is rather interesting, because because it was passed down orally for a very, very long time.
Yes.
And as such, you do get crossovers between different nations and different stories. Actually, that's a good topic. Correlations between fairy tales.
Oh,
That would be a really
that'd be a good idea.
We need to put that on the list.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
I think a good way that the Brothers Grimm, I mean, it's not the proper telling of them, but it kind of steps away from the Disney storytelling, is Once Upon a Time. I really enjoy that show. And well, I did. I've watched a couple of episodes in the new season, and I don't particularly like it. But besides the point, they kind of bring the characters in a nice way. They introduce. So I think one of my favorite way they introduced someone was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That
Yes,
was a
that was a
great
good
way to
entrance.
introduce. That really, really was. Just I think they did so well with introducing the characters and completely turning them around. Like Captain Hook, not a bad guy. It turns out that Peter Pan is supposedly the bad guy.
Which, if you follow the book, you can understand that point of view.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I totally agree with what they were doing, trying to take the original story but still give it that kind of Disney twist
Disney
because it
spin,
was
yeah,
ABC. I mean, obviously
yep,
ABC is owned by Disney, so
yes,
because
Disney owns everything.
Disney
Oh
pretty
wait,
much own everything.
they
They
don't
do.
own DreamWorks.
I don't think they ever will. I mean,
I don't think they will either.
I don't think they want.
They don't own Illumination either, but I want to. Anyway.
No, yeah.
Moving swiftly on from derogatory comments about animation studios, I'll admit I watched Once Upon a Time up to around season 7 or 8, I think.
Yeah, I
It was
think I watched.
It was after Emma became the Dark Lord that I stopped watching.
Yeah, I watched the last season with Emma in, and then there was a season where Henry was grown up, and then it's kind of started again with his daughter. Apparently, it just started the same way, with where Henry went to go find Emma, but it was his daughter trying to find Henry. And I was like, why have we started again? What's going on? And I kind of gave up with it, to be fair. I was like, this isn't good.
To be fair, I'd actually started losing interest after they effectively retconned the Wicked Witch's character.
Oh yeah, Zelina. Yeah.
Because it was like she got killed. Oh wait, no, she didn't. She was pretending to be married. Spoilers for season whatever it was. Although you can go and watch the whole series if you want. But it was like they changed it all around, and it's like, seriously?
And yeah.
You expect us to actually keep watching now that you've done that?
Yeah, I know.
Basically did a whole retcon, and it was just like, ugh. And I started to get bored after that.
Yeah, I just watched it just to say that I have watched it, and then I just was like, I'm done with this now. It's kind of boring.
Yeah,
I can't continue.
It's just like, what? The story, the characters that they have are great, and the fact that they actually did like multifaceted characters.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Which
yeah,
was that was fantastic.
That was good.
But
yeah.
After a while, it just started to get repetitive. It was the same formula over and over again, because like, oh, we've discovered another curse. Why can't we? It stopped being a let's try and get out of Storybook, and let's just have Storybook be part of this massive universe effectively. And it was just like,
just
really?
Do we have
to carry on? But I will admit, for a long while, it was a very good series.
It was.
Until the formula started getting repetitive.
Yeah.
Yes. And there's also the fact that there's so many family links. It's just like...
Oh, and there really was. It was like, what? Just some of these people shouldn't even be related.
Yeah. It's like, I saw a video of somebody called The Theorizer.
Oh, yeah.
Who, yeah, you've heard of him. I thought you might have.
Yeah.
And he did a massive, like, season 8 finale video of this is how everybody's related to each other, and there's so many lines, and it's just like, what?
Did you feel like that guy? With the giant hair and just his hand on like the board, like all the strings attached to the piece of paper?
Seriously, it's just ridiculous.
It did get a bit out of hand. I have to admit.
Yeah, just a tad. So, fun times with that.
Fun times.
Anyway.
Moving on.
Yes, I was just moving on. This isn't so much a genre as, like, I'm very much a fantasy buff as well, you may have noticed. You, the audience, not you, Zach, because you've obviously noticed.
I don't notice anything. I'm just here.
I'm sure you've noticed. No shifty eyes involved whatsoever. But there are a couple of collections that I have of really lovely, like, stories and how they all tie in together, and I find it very interesting because so I've of what I would call collections of stories and anthologies of stories.
Yeah.
I've got Hans Christian Andersen, I've got the Brothers Grimm, both on Kindle because I've never had physical copies of those.
Yeah.
Although I've got a lot of those in my head anyway, because they're good to have in your head when you want to tell them the stories, like Red Riding Hood.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
It is.
But I've also got 1001 Arabian Nights, which I really like. It's got hold on. It's got some beautiful imagery. For example, to read you a little bit. This is that one, not that one. I'm just trying to. So. Here. Okay. One word shows up. The story of Sinbad the Sailor, dear husband, said Shahrazad as the swordsman placed his foot on her back. An adventure drawn up from the liquid mountains sea, where there are as many wonderful beasts and fabulous islands as there are trees in a forest. Shahrazad, I have it in my heart to hear the story, but I have affairs of state to attend to. You'll tell it to me tonight. Swordsman, come back tomorrow at the very same time. Just as the tent of night began to flap around King Shahryar's hut and set the candles, his eyes trembling with fear, Shahrazad came to his bed and lay down beside him. Leaning on one elbow, she began. You see why I like this book?
Absolutely, it's very
it's very rich and very descriptive and reminds you very much of like Middle Eastern culture.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's also illustrated, so that's awesome as well.
Ooh, pictures. That's my favourite thing of books. That's my favourite thing of books. I can't read.
Sure you can.
No, I'm joking. I can read. I can read. I just choose not to not as often as I should. But yeah, it's okay. The last time I read like a proper series before this one was, I think it was like 18, and that was the whole series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. I just read all of them in like 2 weeks, like non-stop.
So the other set of stories that I've got in book form are a series of Chinese kind of folk tales and so forth.
Oh wow.
Which is interesting. That's really interesting.
Oh, I like folk tales actually, I really do.
But the other interesting thing is I've actually bookmarked the series. There's a series on YouTube that I found called Hungarian Folk Tales.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Really nicely illustrated.
Cool.
Oh, really nicely animated.
Yeah.
And done by an English guy.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is there's very much a mixture of like there's some of them allude very much to like Arabian Night stuff, but not actually Arabian Night stuff because
Yeah.
it's obviously slightly different.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other half of it is very much like obviously there's Western stuff. There was a story called Cinderella in it.
Oh wow.
But it's not the same Cinderella as we know.
Ah,
It's
interesting.
a slightly different Cinderella. It's still got the three. It's still got the It's still got the stepmother and stepsisters, stuff like that.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Things like that. But there's no fairy godmother, and she turns up at church each week in a different dress. She turns up 3 times at church in a different dress, which is interesting because originally, obviously, it was a ball, whereas with this one, it's turning up to church, and I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah, that is quite interesting actually.
Yeah.
It's strange how like different cultures like interpret the stories in their own way and then incorporate it into like their own kind of storytelling. I find it really interesting.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Good idea to do videos.
It would be, yeah, it'd be a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another topic that always like another kind of genre that is really interesting.
Absolutely.
So like a lot of different anthologies, tales, and also like adapting fairy tales in slightly more modern settings and things like that.
Absolutely.
I had or have a book somewhere around. I have a lot of books that kind of it either updates it for modern day or does a bit of a twist on things like that, which I really like. It's fun to see them. It's fun to see them made of. It's fun to see them. Yeah. So.
Nice.
I mean, for me, I'll admit, I'm rather a sucker for the classics.
For sure.
Always have
been. Yeah.
But at the same time, to see them kind of updated and what they do with them tends to be quite interesting.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's and it's just like the change, isn't it? I suppose it's kind of like what happens with everything. Everything more or less gets modernized anymore, which in a sense is a good way because it brings it to a new audience who might come across to them more than the classical version. So
yeah.
So more people to read, more people to get involved in, like reading a little bit more. Because personally, I can say working in a school, children don't read as much as they used to at all. When I was working in a school, the amount of children that didn't read every night, it was unbelievable. It really was, and it's kind of shocking to see that over the years stories have lacked in being read at home, even for like 5 minutes, a couple of pages. I can't remember a night when I was younger that I didn't read a school book that I brought home or even a library book. I mean, by the time I was in year 3, I had read the majority of the Harry Potter books. And by the time the new ones came out, I read them all straight there and then. I think the last one would have come out, how old am I, 24? So when did the Deathly Hallows come out? Was it 2000? Or was it earlier? I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember. But
I'm trying to remember
if I was did it come out when the Philosopher's Stone came out in the movie?
No.
Or was it beforehand?
Philosopher's Stone came out in the massively long hiatus between like 4 and 5, I think. Because I remember going to see the movie and thinking, this is way darker than the books. I don't like this.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the books up until about book 3, the books had been far more light
Oh yeah,
than
for
dark.
sure.
And the film made the very obvious decision to make it dark.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. It
And
did.
I personally didn't like the way that they did that.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean,
Yes.
I enjoy watching the movies, but it can't ever beat the stories and the books at all. It really
Yeah.
can't.
I mean, the books will always be so much better.
Oh yeah,
Like,
for sure.
so much
Absolutely.
better. My mum, I will admit, doesn't like Harry, but
Not everyone
I know of
does.
stories where children got back into reading because of Harry Potter.
Absolutely. I think
And
I think Harry Potter, for me personally, it was one of those books that, because at the time I was reading so much heavily, my reading ability was above everybody else, like
mm,
immensely. I think I was in year 3 and I was on the level of, I think, a very high year 5.
that sounds familiar.
Yeah, so that for me, Harry Potter, with some of the words in it, it challenged me, which I needed to be challenged, because the books in the library, they were they were pieces of cake. So they really were. I mean, I think the hardest book I read in there was one of the Goosebumps books, and that was like one of the last ones that were made, coming up to the 2000 series, and I was like, I struggled with like one word, I think, and I was like, it's too easy. I need something else.
Yeah.
And then by the time I read Harry Potter, I didn't read anything for a very long time, because I turned around to mum and was like, I've read all of these. I don't need to read anymore. I know how to read. And then the next thing I read was Unfortunate Events of Lemony Snicket. I think I was just starting high school when I started getting into them. Just before the movie came out with Jim Carrey, and I was like, right, I'm going to read these before the movie came out. Read them all in about 2-3 weeks, and I was like, these are pretty good. And up until that point, I wasn't reading like full series. I was reading like the odd book here and there, and
Yeah.
I was like, I really don't see the point in reading to myself, because I know how to do it. I have an immense vocabulary. I don't need to upgrade it as of yet, and I don't see the point in reading until I'm a little bit older, just to keep on top of it. So,
See, here's the thing. Even from a young age, I was read to. I
was read to at a young age. Yeah, every single night, and my mum used to read
and
me a story.
I think the difference between the two of us is you are infinitely more practical about this. You are very much, if I don't need to do something to do this, then I don't need to do it. With me, my love of books has always gone beyond, do I need to extend my vocabulary?
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
Yes.
I've extended it since I was at college. I mean, the last time I was at college, when I was at college, we all did like a vocab test, and I think mine was the second highest. I think someone just got a couple of points more than me. But at the age of 16, I had the vocabulary of a 25-year-old lawyer. That's what I was told, and I was like, you know what? Fair enough. I don't need to upgrade that anytime soon, do I? And they looked at me and they went, no, and they went, you're very like prominent for your age. And I was like, well, what do you expect? I've been brought up right. And they say you don't sound like your accent. You don't really have one. I was like, that's because I've been taught how to pronounce my words properly. What do you want me to do?
See, that's interesting because now you do have an accent. At least I can hear your accent, but
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, for round here, I mean, everyone up like Manchester and Bury in particular, people in Bury don't pronounce the H's, or instead of saying house, they say house. It's not an house, it's a house. It has a H. Or instead of saying how, they say ow, and you just pronounce every single letter. I mean, people around here don't pronounce their T's either. Like, they don't pronounce them properly, and it's I've been brought up to do that because where I was like initially like born outside of Bury, like it wasn't. I was still in the Bury area, but it wasn't like in Bury, so I was brought with a different accent, and obviously over time it's just gotten better. It's just gotten like more prominent, and obviously to you it sounds different, but to everyone round here, it sounds like completely different to how they pronounce their words because I pronounce every single letter, or at least try to, I suppose. Yeah. My number 2 is a bit of a guilty pleasure, actually, to be fair.
okay.
It's fan fiction.
That is a very good. In some cases, that can be a really good guilty pleasure. Though.
It can, and to be fair, I'm actually quite proud of having this one because over the years I've kind of learned to enjoy it more than I have done previously because of the ability of being able to appreciate people more and taking the time to actually make it. I mean, there is so many popular ones that are around, like Elsa and Jack from Guardians of the Galaxy. Not Guardians of the Galaxy, Rise of the Guardians, even. You've got Harry Potter ones. You've got How to Train Your Dragon ones. There's more. I can't think of any more Disney ones.
You've got My Little Pony ones.
I've not delved that far into it, to be fair. But there is so many, and I truly appreciate the people that put the work into it and actually like sit down and start this whole like idea that they have, and it's just so cool to see what would happen if that were to happen. Like, what would happen, let's say, if Draco and Hermione got together in Harry Potter, or Harry and Hermione got together, and it's just those what ifs and like it. What ifs and what if JK would have turned that direction and give us all these signs that her and Ron were supposed to get together, and then boom, she was to go with Harry, and it's just that kind of what if that I really like, and I kind of like really enjoy reading them to see potential outcomes of what could have happened.
Yes. I think excuse me. Two of the fan fictions that I read for Harry Potter, I actually tried to start writing one myself, and it worked a bit.
Yeah.
My one was that Harry was actually one of triplets, and he had 2 sisters, and I was very much into the canon Harry Potter at that point.
Yeah.
So naturally, it was very much a Harry Harry Ginny ship.
Yeah.
So much a Harry Ginny ship.
Yeah.
And I got as far as describing what he got for his birthday. which was an awesome scene because he had some seriously nice things in there, and things
Nice.
like there were like matching pendants for 3 girls, for him and his 2 sisters.
Oh.
Please note, part of it was that it was based off of another fanfic that I'd read that I loved, and I don't know where it's gone, and I seriously want to find it and get back into it again.
Yeah.
Basically, the premise of that one, I can't remember them. It was something like student teacher at Hogwarts. Basically, it introduced the daughter of the cousin, the accountant cousin,
Oh, cool.
that didn't have a that was a muggle, that was a squib or like part of a muggle family, if you remember.
Yeah.
And it basically was a case of she's a witch, she is dating another girl, and they're both what I would call Wiccan witches.
Mm.
And they make a blood pact, and then suddenly the her friend partner person suddenly develops magic powers.
Nice.
Yeah, that was interesting.
That
And
sounds so cool.
she gets sent to Hogwarts.
Nice.
She wants to do some research about like crystal stuff.
Yeah.
And shenanigans ensue, but her version, Harry was one of quadruplets.
All right. Okay.
Cool. And that was interesting.
That would be interesting to see, actually.
Yes, that was a very interesting story. The other one that I loved, that I haven't actually got back into ever at all yet, was, I think it was a story on, not sure it was on DeviantArt, it was on a Harry Potter. Oh, it was fun. I think I found it on fan fiction or something. But the story was that Tonks and Andromeda.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Were Tonks was younger.
Yeah.
Much younger.
Yeah.
And she lived and they lived near Harry, basically.
Oh.
Yeah. And we also discovered that Harry's a mesomorph major.
Ah, interesting.
Yes. We discovered that Harry's a mesomorph major, and instead of becoming friends with Ron, and instead of becoming friends with Hagrid, because of course he finds out about the Wizarding World through Tonks,
He becomes close with Tonks, yeah.
He becomes close with Tonks, and he doesn't like Ron. He obviously befriends Hermione, but he's also friends with a guy who turns out to be a vampire.
Ah, okay.
But I really like some of the stuff people come up with.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. I mean, you can tell the amount of passion they have for said fandom, for the amount of effort they put into a fan fiction. It's truly amazing what they can do with it.
Yep. Definitely. Anyway, this was your segment. Sorry,
No, it's absolutely fine. I enjoy the things. What's it? I can't even think of the word.
Banter?
That's it. Yeah, the banter. Oh my gosh, man, I can't get my words out. But yeah, that was my section. Fan fiction, a guilty pleasure of mine. Not ashamed at all, because again, the amount of effort that people put into it, it's just truly inspiring. It really is, and it's so cool to see that there's so many of them. And again, it's those what ifs that I really like. Like, what if Harry found out about the Wizarding World sooner? What if his parents were still alive? What if he befriended someone else? A more popular one is what if Harry became a Slytherin? That's a huge fan fiction one. Again, with the other ones, what if Harry was in any of the other houses and befriended other people and wasn't friends with Ron and Hermione. It's just all those what ifs that I really, really do enjoy seeing and actually seeing what people come up with. It's really cool.
Yeah. There's a world of possibilities out there.
Absolutely. There really, really is.
There are some amazing fan fictions out there.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Oh. Yeah.
On to yours.
Yeah. Number 3.
Number 3.
I don't know if this counts. I'm not sure that this one counts. Am I allowed to say baking?
Baking? What?
Probably not. No, that's more instructional, but as an aside, I like baking. I have a lot of cookery books.
I was going to say, that's not... I mean, it's no, on to the next one.
Yeah, on to the next one. This, for those of you who know me, this will not surprise me in the slightest. I adore children's books.
Oh yeah, for sure. How can you not? Children's books are, oh man,
Fantastic.
they're so well written. They really are.
Okay, so please note, when I say children's books, I'm talking things like Julia Donaldson.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know who Julia Donaldson is, she is the person who wrote The Gruffalo and The Gruffalo's Child and Stickman and Room on the Broom and all those amazingly rhymed books that are just adorable.
Those amazing books that are in legit every single childcare institute in Britain.
Like so many of them. It's just awesome. She's a fantastic. I really like her as a writer.
Oh yeah, I do.
I consider children's books to be anywhere from like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah.
Which I will say, one thing about a good, and I do mean good, children's book is that it doesn't just appeal to children.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It can be loved by everyone. Yeah.
A good children's book will not talk down to the child.
No.
It will engage. A good book, full stop, will engage the child. It will engage the adult that's probably reading it to the child.
Oh yeah,
it will draw them into the story, and it will allow them to, if it doesn't have pictures in it, it allows them to create a world in their head.
For sure. Yeah. And those are the kind of books that, again, that are good to let the imagination run wild. Stuff like Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I mean, Narnia is such a vast place to explore with imagination. And another one I'm thinking of is Lord of the Rings. I mean...
See, interestingly enough, I wouldn't count the Lord of the Rings as a children's book. I count Hobbit as a children's book, but not Lord of the Rings. There's also the fact I have never managed to get past the first chapter of Lord of the Rings.
Okay, so should we just say Middle Earth then in general? Because Middle Earth itself is where everything's set for, like the Hobbit, and but then again, it's more
Silmarillion and all that jazz.
All that jazz, yeah.
All that jazz. Anyway, I like musicals. There's a lot of.
Someone's got to like them.
You can probably tell.
Not at all.
Yes.
So, as you were saying, sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's fine. It's fun to talk about. But children's books for me take me back to a time where
you was a child.
Well, not just that.
When life was simpler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much simpler. Agreed. For example, do you remember the book Each Peach, Pear, Plum?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. That was a great book.
It's such a great book.
Yeah.
To the point that I actually memorized it.
Wow.
Yeah, I tend to memorize stuff quite a lot if I want to be able to read it and actually just tell the story. For example, I can more or less recite the entirety of the Gruffalo.
Nice. That's
Yep.
that's a skill. That is a skill.
Yes, it
Speaking
is a skill.
speaking of
It is
children books, one of my all-time favorite children's author, Roald Dahl.
Roald Dahl is a classic.
Roald Dahl is a classic. My
Oh,
favorite book of all time by Roald Dahl, James and the Giant Peach.
huh.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my absolute favorite. Closely second is Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, I
Just
remember Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now, on a bit of an aside,
mm,
which film version do you
the Gene
prefer?
Wilder version.
Okay.
No competition.
See,
I don't want to
the
say
Gene
the
Wilder
words. I don't want
version,
to say.
I will admit, is wonderfully fantastic and just so different.
Yeah, let's just leave it
But
at different. My word is not different, but Johnny Depp is certainly different in that movie.
well, the thing is, I actually like both versions, weirdly enough, because Tim Burton sticks to the story for the most part.
He does, and I like Tim Burton's way of telling stories, but I don't like the way that Johnny Depp is dressed. I don't want to say
He's
what he looks like.
creepy.
I'm
It's
just gonna
just
leave it
so.
at creepy. I'm just gonna leave it at
It's
extremely
Tim
creepy.
Burton.
It
Tim Burton is the reason that I will not buy a copy of Miss Peregrine's um, Home for Peculiar Children.
Oh, I love that movie. That's such a good movie.
Have you ever read the books?
I didn't know it was a book.
The books are better.
Really? Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know it was a book. My favorite
There
person out
are.
of that. My favorite person out of that is the child with the lead boots who stops herself from flying. She's cool.
Here's the thing. There's a number of changes. Tim Burton tends to not like doing sequels.
Of course.
You may have gathered. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
The books. The books that you have in the series are a trilogy.
Yeah.
With an addendum.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they decided to do, which I can kind of understand, but at the same time it's slightly annoying. Emma, who's obviously like the main protagonist, quote unquote, girlfriend, ends up actually has fire powers as opposed to being able to take off into the air.
Ah, interesting.
The girl who can take off into the air is a completely different girl.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's also quite a bit younger.
Strange.
The other thing is the ending in the film is completely different to the ending in the books.
Yeah.
Because the ending in the books, spoilers, has the children turning up in modern day America.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
where at the end of the movie, didn't they go back in time to try and stop the Doomsday device?
Yes, except in
back
this
in
version.
1940, was it
1944? Something like that.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very different story in the books, and I actually honestly prefer the version in the books.
Oh well, like you were saying before, the books are always better. I mean, they always adapt I think the thing they do with movies, and they have to, and I totally understand, but I wish they would put more in, is they only take the key plot points of the book and somewhat change them to work within cinema. But things like I can't even think of the name. Peculiar Children. Like you were saying, it's a different ending. It's completely different. It's the
Yeah.
same with most adaptations of stories from into movies, because
Mm.
I feel they have to adapt it more to a bigger audience, if that makes sense. So then more people can go ahead and enjoy it, rather than just targeting the people who read the books.
I get that. And
I
I
don't
understand
totally
why
agree
they did
with
the
it,
film the
but
way they did.
yeah.
But yeah, I don't like the. I still don't like the way that they handled the film in terms of adaptation
Yeah,
because,
for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Although it kind of makes sense because they wanted a self-contained film, so yeah.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
starts. It's one of those weird things. But what is your third and final?
My third and final one is I've put mystery.
Okay.
Things like, well, I've kind of like double barreled it and put thrillers as well. Kind of not like horror stories, but kind of like things that make you think. You like one that comes to mind is I've recently read The Girl on the Train, and I watched the movie with Emily Blunt in it. Completely different to the book. But it's one of those stories that makes you think, and it kind of kept me on the edge of my seat, to be fair. And it's one of those books that I don't read often, but when I do, I really, really enjoy them. And it's just one of those things that I think, it's kind of interesting to read those kind of things, and kind of like the real life mysteries of um like serial killers and things. I enjoy reading that type of stuff, forensic science, and like unsolved mysteries and like police and things like that. And those kind of things,
Mm,
you just really they're pretty cool for me to read. Actually, I really do enjoy reading them.
that's cool. I mean, for me, when I think mystery, I think Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie and like Miss Marple and Poirot and
Yeah.
classic
Classic
mystery.
mystery book stories. Yeah, I'm more of like real life mysteries, kind of like one of
Ooh,
those
Loch Ness Monster.
yeah, like the Loch Ness monster, and like police cases, like um the mystery of the Black Dahlia back in the 1940s in Los Angeles, and things like phenomenons of like Bigfoot and things like that. I enjoy reading that type of stuff. Like they've acclaimed, they've found things, and yet when they've come back to tell, they like have like this reenactment, and like they imagine it, and it could have been something different because there's not enough solid proof. And that's the kind of mystery that I like. And it's like makes me think, is it real? Is the things like that out there? And it's pretty interesting for me to use like to think, like, is it possible that these things actually do exist? And if so, have these people actually seen it, or is it just like their mind tricking them, believing that they saw it? And just those kind of things, it really intrigues me.
Hmm, I get that.
Mm,
It's that thing of the intangible.
that's
That
it. Yeah,
thing,
yeah.
like, thing that, like, just flits through the corner of your eye and you're like, what's that?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Look,
Yeah.
like, it's not quite horror, but like that thing in the back of your mind is that real or that fake?
Exactly. Yeah. That's the kind of thing that I really do enjoy. Like that moment of where you just take a step back and like, does this really exist? Did people actually see this? And if so, uh, how did they see it? And if not, then could it have just been like a branch on a tree, or could it have been like a deer or something, or could it have just been a wild animal, or like a bear, or what it is? It just gets me thinking, and it's just like, huh. It just really entertains me to think that those kind of things actually like do exist.
Definitely. I wrote a poem. I can't remember what I called it. It's on Deviant. It's on my DeviantArt actually. If you want to go and check out my Deviant, don't, because I've only got one thing on there. It's under smudge dash 180 or underscore 180, one or the other.
Send it to me and I'll put it in the description.
Okay, that works.
Yeah.
But it was like it talking about someone on a train daydreaming. The poem sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
It's like they're a tree, and then they're a squirrel in that tree, and then they hear another squirrel, and they become a pine marten, and then they go and and then something happens to the other squirrel that they hear, which I won't go into because I'm sure you can work it out. And then they're an eagle, and they hear their mum calling the. Yes, this is loosely based on me. And then, it's called Bending Reality. That was it.
There we go. She got it. She got it.
Yay!
Yeah.
And like, and the last line is, the train stops and I wake up. In my hand, an acorn. Was it all a dream? Did reality bend a little?
Interesting.
It's worth going to read. You should all go and read it. I'm not doing shameless plugs on my on this podcast at all. Honest.
No, never. Well, it'll be in the description as soon as I you upload. As soon as I upload it, it'll be on the in the description.
Yes,
along with everything else.
Well, that's our three choices. Next time we'll do something. We forgot to decide what we're going to do for next time.
Next time we'll wing it.
Yeah. Oh, so like loads of change there then.
Nope, not at all. Not at
all. We potentially we'll have a look and we'll post it in the given that we've got a couple of weeks aside, we'll post it in the we can post it in the description or something.
Yep.
That works.
It will work. In the description for you, ladies and gentlemen, on the YouTube channel, you will have Sarah's DeviantArt. You will have my YouTube channel. Yep. You will have the Podbean website, so you can go and check that out as well if you want to. Yep. Sarah, do you want your Discord on there?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Sarah has a Discord server. It's called Story Corner, I believe. Is that right?
I believe it's Storytime Corner.
Storytime Corner. I was close. Yes. So that'll be in the link.
We're currently doing a fun thing. There may also in the future be a proper competition to. Excuse me. There may also be in the future a competition so that to actually be able to come on to the podcast if you want to.
Yeah.
Yay!
Come join us and have some talking.
Yes.
So all of that will be in the description down below. I might put some other things in the description. I'm not decided yet. I've got a couple of weeks before this goes up. So, that was my 3 choices. That was Sarah's 3 choices. We had a nice chat about some random things as well, so that's always good. And you can tell this is totally scripted, so that's fine.
Totally honest.
Totally honest. With that being said, be sure to
like comment,
this, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're listening on Podbean, be sure to follow us on there and follow our monthly podcast episodes. But unless Sarah has anything left to say, I am Zach. Thank you so much for joining us, and I will see you.
I am Sarah.
Oh, go on. Never mind.
Sorry. I am Sarah, and sleep well and have a good night.
We will see you in the next episodes.
Yay!
If you find my YouTube channel, you will see me in my YouTube channel. So
you should go check it out. He's good. He's currently doing Vlogmas, so go check that out.
I am currently doing Vlogmas. By the time you see this, it will be the 28th day of Vlogmas. I'm doing it all the way up to the new year. So
yes,
come join me.
So go and watch it.
Go and watch. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, it is.
Sleep tight, guys. Have a nice night, nice day whenever you're watching this or listening to this, should I say. And see you next month. Bye.
Bye.